Andrew, Holy K is a product that's worked really well at Lamport. So we've done looked at replacing some potassium in the large plots. We've looked in small plots and field over there at Drawton, and seen over a number of years pretty consistent results. For the grower, tell us about Holy K.
Yeah, so like you say, potassium product, relatively simple in that it's got 20% potassium and it's got LPGA. So the LPGA is in there again for nitrogen use efficiency. The potassium itself is formulated without any of the antagonistic anions, such as chloride. And ultimately what that means is that it's much more efficiently taken up through the leaf. So previously, the understanding might have been that it was very hard or maybe impossible to get potassium to go in through the leaf. That was true when it was formulated with these antagonistic anions. If you take them out, they can go in through the leaf very efficiently at sort of key growth stages.
So you mentioned key growth stages. In our trials, so I mean the products we talked about earlier, talked about autumn and spring. For me, Holy K, probably more spring. So in wheat, for instance, sort of later applications, your T1.5, T2, where we tend to see more consistent benefits.
So if we look at, if we were to imagine a graph of sort of crop uptake of potassium, that would be sort of peak in terms of its like daily uptake rate at around stem extension. So for us, Holy K fits really neatly into that sort of T1, T2 timing, rapid growth.
Okay. I mean, something that we should have said is potassium crop has a bigger need for potassium, or most crops, than nitrogen, doesn't it? And then we've talked about the impact of weather on uptake. So we've just had a dry summer, 25, dry summer or dry spring, big demands for potash because it's not been able to take it up from the soil. But when that happens, might be different in different seasons, mightn't it?
Absolutely. So there are a number of things, a number of areas where this fits really, or where we see the biggest results. Dry seasons. So one of the things that we know is that potassium sort of dissipates out in the soil very quickly as soils dry out. So if we can replace a little bit of the potassium again through the leaf, it's less affected by soil moisture. Spring cereals, especially East Anglia, drier parts of the country, they're planted later in the spring, and then they go through that rapid growth first very, very quickly, but also potentially at a drier time. So it seems to be very responsive, or those crops seem to be very responsive as well. Other crops that respond very well to Holy K would be things like potatoes. So again, they tend to sit underground for a period of time, come through and get to that rosette, and then go through a very rapid phase of growth. Huge demand for potassium. So again, if we're feeding some of that in with LPGA to help that plant sort of take up and utilise potassium and nitrogen as efficiently as possible.
It's interesting the bit about nitrogen. So there's a trial result we've got from a field, a couple of fields away, a couple of years ago, where we looked at the grain testing. Okay, and this is a case where we should all be testing grain to see how well our nutrient programme is. And we had treated and untreated, and nitrogen was in excess, or potassium was in excess for both samples. So you're kind of thinking, how did we get this yield increase from Holy K? And it's probably the PGA bit, isn't it? In a season where nitrogen uptake was challenged, potassium, that wasn't the issue, but actually having that bit of PGA in there, so you've got a product that's helping with two things.
We also know that potassium is required within the plant for mobilising and moving nitrogen throughout the crop. So again, with all our products, we'll have a nutrient in there, we'll have a metabolite in there, and we focus on it in isolation. But actually, potassium interacts with lots of other things within the plant, that if we can get it right, then we will see efficiencies improve in something like nitrogen, or potentially, biotic stress management. We know that potassium has a benefit in terms of how that plant can actually fight a disease or deal with a stress period.
Yeah.
So there's lots of knock-on benefits to getting these things right.
Yeah. I mean, we know potassium is important for cell strength and stem strength. So we have, where we've been doing work in barley, for instance, we've seen reduced brackling where we've mixed with the fungicide some Holy K. So that's going to be potassium improving cell strength, stem strength, reducing brackling. So another benefit.
We know that when we bale the straw, we're taking a huge amount of potassium off the field.
Yeah.
So the potassium is inherently involved in that sort of cell production and strength and structuring.